Hello, citizens of Canada. We are Anonymous. As promised, we are revealing information about MP Vic Toews that we have received not only from one, but several named and anonymous sources, not to be confused with the group Anonymous itself. This video will be split into two parts, as there is a great deal of information to be presented. This may strain some of our viewers' patience. However, this is a very serious allegation, and it must be dealt with in the most in-depth manner possible. On November 23, 2006, when Mr. Toews was serving as the Minister of Justice, he appointed Catherine Everett, formerly a judge of the Provincial Court of Manitoba, to the Family Division of the Court of Queen's Bench of Manitoba. The allegations that Anonymous has received state that at the time this appointment was made, Vic Toews was engaged in an affair with Catherine Everett. We are not legal experts by any means, but it seems to us that this would represent an enormous conflict of interest, especially since this information was not disclosed at the time of the appointment. It also opens the door to the possibility that this appointment was made in exchange for sexual favors, either directly or indirectly, which would not only be unethical, but very likely criminal behavior. We can establish that Vic Toews and Catherine Everett were familiar with each other for some time, as he first appointed her to the Provincial Court of Manitoba in 1998, long before her subsequent judicial appointment in 2006. Of course, short of images or video of Vic Toews and Catherine Everett in romantic or sexual situations, we cannot prove conclusively that this allegation is true. However, we can make an educated guess. First, we must consider the source of the information. Next, we must consider if this allegation is consistent with Mr. Toews' character. As past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, and vice versa, we will ask ourselves several key questions, and answer them based on facts Mr. Toews himself has confirmed, with information through sworn court documents. These questions are: 1. Would Vic Toews commit adultery and have an ongoing affair while married to his first wife? 2. Would Vic Toews cheat on the woman he was cheating with? 3. Would Vic Toews risk his political career to engage in extramarital sex? 4. Would Vic Toews use his political connections to give the woman he was having an affair with a government job? 5. Would Vic Toews engage in hypocritical behavior, i.e., behave unjustly while the Minister of Justice? 6. Would Vic Toews engage in criminal behavior associated with his political position? Finally, and most damning of all, we will examine a timeline of events from January 2007 to late 2008. Analysis of these events suggests not only is the allegation true, but that Stephen Harper knew about it, and quietly removed Mr. Toews from his position as Justice Minister as a result, but did not disclose Mr. Toews' actions to the authorities. We will now go through these points one at a time. Our viewers will be utterly sick of hearing the word "quote" by the end of this video, but it's necessary to avoid any confusion, so please bear with us. First, considering the source. Anonymous obviously cannot release the identity of the individuals who revealed this information to us, as doing so would bring the full wrath of the government down upon their heads, as we have already seen with the creator of the Vikileaks account. However, we can tell you that, even disregarding anonymous sources, more than one individual has made this claim to us, and we have confirmed through public records that they were employed in a capacity that put them close to either Vic Toews or Catherine Everett. There is always the possibility these individuals are part of a carefully orchestrated conspiracy to discredit Mr. Toews and the Harper government, as we are sure they will claim. This seems unlikely to us, but just in case, let us give no weight to the identity of the sources whatsoever and analyze their claims based on the merits of the facts alone. Anonymous is fairly certain Mr. Toews will declare this video a character assassination. It is more accurately described as a record of character suicide, as Mr. Toews himself admits to nearly all the acts discussed beyond this point. Question 1. Would Vic Toews commit adultery and have an ongoing affair while married to his first wife? This we can answer with a conclusive yes. Mr. Toews himself admits to this in sworn affidavits from his divorce proceedings. Quote, "In late 2006, I discovered that the woman with whom I was having an affair was pregnant with my child." There are several other statements in these affidavits from Mr. Toews' first wife, confirming he engaged in multiple and ongoing affairs. Quote, "He was in fact having an affair with our children's former babysitter from 1986 to 1993. Quote, "It is true that in 2006 Vic began suggesting that I should seek employment. I know now, although I did not know it then, that Vic was involved in an affair at that time." Quote, "On January 28, 2007 Vic informed me that he had been having an affair for the past 3 years and that the woman was pregnant." This statement in particular we can confirm refers to Stacey Meek. Quote, "It was devastating for me because Vic had informed me in 1993 that he had been having an affair with my sister's nanny for 7 years. Quote, "He told me then that he would terminate the affair and promised to be faithful thereafter." And from Mr. Toews again. Quote, "The two affairs did not happen in isolation from the abusive manner in which she started to treat me shortly after we got married." Note that Mr. Toews only acknowledges having engaged in two affairs, one with a babysitter, and one with Stacey Meek. That his wife did not bring up a third woman, or Catherine Everett in particular, suggests that if Mr. Toews did in fact engage in an affair with her, his first wife was not aware of it. 2. Would Vic Toews cheat on the woman he was cheating with? Note that above, Mr. Toews claims to have been involved with Ms. Meek for the past 3 years as of January 2007. This would mean that if he was engaged in an affair with Catherine Everett in 2006, he would not only be cheating on his first wife, but his mistress Stacey Meek as well. We suppose it's possible Mr. Toews and Ms. Meek had established some sort of non-exclusive open relationship at that point, but we will not dwell on this as it is largely irrelevant. It is safe to assume that a man willing to cheat on his wife of 30 years would also cheat on his mistress of 2 or 3 years. 3. Would Vic Toews risk his political career to engage in extramarital sex? This we can also answer with a conclusive yes. Vic Toews campaigned and was elected in one of the most conservative and religious ridings in Canada, and was once dubbed the Minister of Family Values. It was this now discredited public image that initially endeared him to the voters of Provencher. As mentioned in our previous videos, Mr. Toews campaigned to deny gay, lesbian, and bisexual Canadian citizens equal rights under the law, making statements such as, quote, "Marriage is one of the cornerstones upon which our society has been built." Quote, "Heterosexual marriage has a unique social purpose that other relationships simply do not share." Quote, "Marriage is a uniquely heterosexual institution, that indeed is a sacrament." It stands to reason that Mr. Toews had at the very minimum a reasonable expectation that his adulterous activities would ruin his carefully constructed image of a devoutly Christian family man, causing his religious base in Provencher to withdraw their support from his candidacy and Mr. Toews finding himself without a job. 4. Would Vic Toews use his political connections to give the woman he was having an affair with a government job? This we cannot be sure of, though pure common sense will reveal it is certainly possible. We do know for a fact that his former mistress, Stacey Meek, is currently employed in an administrative capacity by Conservative Senator Terry Stratton, is listed as a constituency assistant for Conservative MP Joyce Bateman, and was previously employed by Conservative MP Joyce Smith, until either A. Vic Toews' first wife had her fired from her job out of spite, as Mr. Toews alleges in the affidavits from his divorce proceedings, or B. The Conservative Party itself fired her in an attempt to suppress a political scandal should Mr. Toews' affair be made public. If, as Mr. Toews alleges, his wife used her personal connections to have Stacey Meek fired, it stands to reason that an actual Conservative politician would be more than capable of using his personal connections to have her hired in the first place. 5. Would Vic Toews engage in hypocritical behavior, i.e., behave in an unjust or unethical manner while in the position of Provincial Justice Minister? This we can answer with a resounding, conclusive yes. In addition to the points we've already discussed, Mr. Toews condemned gay marriage on the basis that it could lead to polygamy. Apparently Mr. Toews only objects to ongoing sexual relationships and the fathering of children with more than one woman when it is formalized and done out in the open, as opposed to behind your wife's back. Speaking of marriage, another statement from Mr. Toews. Quote, "We are very concerned that people carry out their legal obligations to their spouses on the termination of the marriage, or otherwise, to ensure that both the spouse and the children receive the monies that they are entitled to." From his first wife, in the affidavits from their divorce proceedings. Quote, "After the separation Vic paid support on a voluntary basis." Quote, "In February 2010 Vic closed the joint account into which the support was being deposited." Quote, "When I asked him to send the money to another account, he ignored me." Quote, "Eventually he admitted to my lawyer that he had no intention of paying any further support." Quote, "Vic missed the March 1, 2010 payment, so I have had no money since February 2010. Quote, "In addition I was raising our 2 children almost single-handedly." Of course, it is not uncommon for former spouses to level unfounded accusations at each other during divorce proceedings. However, things like closure dates for bank accounts and the depositing of money can be proven through banking records. If Mr. Toews had truly been paying regular child support or alimony, any lawyer worth his or her salt would have leapt upon this immediately as evidence that Mr. Toews' ex-wife's claims were unfounded. And finally, from Mr. Toews again, in regard to his now 4-year-old son with Stacey Meek and his wife at the time. Quote, "She was prepared to remain in our relationship but stipulated that I was to have no contact with the child until he was 18 years of age." and from his then-wife. Quote, Vic was anxious to remain married and to do anything he could to keep the marriage together, including agreeing to have nothing more to do with his mistress and nothing to do with the baby. Presumably nothing to do with includes not paying child support. Of course, while these actions are morally repugnant, they occur in the sphere of Mr. Toews' personal, rather than political life. Perhaps the best example of Mr. Toews' hypocrisy is that despite the fact that he is a convicted criminal, he states that government is not in the, quote, business of forgiveness, and supports so-called tough-on-crime legislation. Which leads us to our final question. 6. Would Vic Toews engage in unethical or even criminal behavior associated with his political position? This we can also confirm with absolute certainty. In 2005, Mr. Toews was charged with violating Manitoba's Election Finances Act in the 1999 provincial election. During the election cycle, it was discovered that his election campaign had spent thousands of dollars more than the allowed limit. Mr. Toews was convicted of this offense. From the court case, Her Majesty the Queen vs. Vic Toews. Sentence delivered February 4, 2005, Provincial Court of Manitoba. Quote, it is not in dispute that Mr. Toews exceeded the limitations on election expenses in his campaign. Quote, others worked to ensure that this was avoided. Others exercised due diligence. Mr. Toews and his campaign did not. We don't know whether to laugh or cry over the fact that in 2006, Stephen Harper appointed Mr. Toews to the position of Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. And this is where things get very interesting. So far, we have only proven that Vic Toews is a manipulative, deceptive individual who is willing to misrepresent himself, tell bold-faced lies, and is willing to engage in unethical or criminal activity to get what he wants, both in the pursuit of political power and sexual conquest. In the next video, we will discuss an extremely suspicious series of events that occurred from January 2007 to late 2008, that deal with not only Vic Toews and Catherine Everett, but Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and his possible involvement in this situation.